Hello, time for another Man in Great book review. Today's book is Some 40 Tales from the Afterlives by David Eagleman. This book was published in 2009 by Pantheon Books. It's 110 pages. David Eagleman is a neuroscientist and a professor at Princeton University. He's also created and hosted a television series called The Brain with David Eagleman. And he's done a series of popular science books about neurology and neuroscience. This book, though, is an outlier because it's fiction. And it's an experimental novel, and it has a couple of precedents. I think he was clearly influenced by a couple of other novels. One is called Invisible Cities by the Italian writer Italo Calvino, and another one is called Einstein's Dreams by Alan Lightman. Invisible Cities was a novel in which Calvino imagines a conversation between Marco Polo and Kubla Khan, in which Marco Polo describes various cities that he's encountered on his travels. But each city has some kind of fantastical element about it. It's a kind of magic realism book. But there's no plot. It's just a series of descriptions of these bizarre cities. And Einstein's Dream, Alan Lightman, takes us back to the time when Einstein was working on the general theory of relativity around 1912, 1914 or so. And Einstein goes to sleep, and every night he has a dream about an alternative universe where space and time behave differently than they do here. And then that gradually leads him to develop the theory of relativity. In this novel, if you can call it that, it's an experimental work. We have 40 different short chapters in which Eagleman describes a possible afterlife. For example, in the opening chapter, when you die, you repeat your entire life over again, except all of the events are categorized and grouped all at the same time. So you spend thousands and thousands of hours sleeping. And when that's over, you spend hundreds of hours brushing your teeth and hundreds of hours taking a shower, and you spend thousands of hours sitting and watching television shows, and so on. And so you go through all of your life, but it's all clumped together where all of the experiences you've had that are similar are all lived simultaneously or in sequence. There's another chapter in this book in which when you die, the world is exactly like the world you lived in, except that the only people in the afterlife are people that you know or have met. So all your family are there, all of your friends are there, your acquaintances, the clerk at the grocery store, the letter carrier, but you never meet any strangers. You never meet anybody new. So if you go to a movie theater, you're probably going to be the only person there unless by chance one of your friends shows up. If you go out to walk your dog in the park's empty unless there's one or two people that you know somewhere in the park. So in one way, it's comforting because you all your friends and family are there, but you never have any new experiences because you can't meet anyone that you didn't meet in your original life. There's another kind of amusing chapter in which when you die, you discover that Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, is sitting on a throne and attended by angels, because it turns out that God is a big fan of the book Frankenstein, because God himself sees himself as a version of Dr. Frankenstein. He creates life, but then just as in the novel Frankenstein, the doctor creates life, but then he can't control the monster that he created. And God sees the human race as that way, creates this human life, but then the humans go off and start wars and destroy the environment, everything. And so God kind of falls into a funk and kind of retreats into a room and just periodically reads Frankenstein over again because he identifies with the problems that Dr. Frankenstein had in that novel. One of the more interesting to me chapters is one on something called death switches, and this is kind of prescient. This book was written in 2009, but in the future, artificial intelligence is developed to the point where before you die, you can set up what's called a death switch. You can set up a list of family and friends, and then after you die, AI generates a series of email messages to send to people as if you were still alive. So the AI scans your list of friends and finds out whenever an important event has happened. So you send an email message to your friends on their birthday or your family on their birthday. You congratulate someone for getting a promotion. You congratulate somebody when they're getting married, but you're dead. But the computer is doing it in your name. It learns your style of writing and sends messages out so that in that way you live on beyond your death, but you live on as a series of AI generated computer messages. And the problem is, in time, when so many people die who do this, that there's thousands and thousands of these dead switch messages going out, and people become confused, and it becomes difficult to tell if you're getting a message from someone who's actually alive or someone who's been dead for 10 or 15 years. So each one of these is sort of a different spin on what the afterlife may be like. So as you can tell from my brief description here, this book is not a conventional novel. There's not a plot. There's not characters. There are settings, but each setting is different in each chapter. It's really a series of thought experiments with a philosophical spin to them. So they're philosophical thought experiments. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, it is very thought provoking. But if you're interested in a conventional story with characters and a setting and conflict, then this is not the book for you. But if you're interested in experimental fiction and musing about what an afterlife might be like, it's very interesting. And of course, a lot of this comes from Eagleman's background as a neuroscientist. The book is Some 40 Tales from the Afterlife. The author is David Eagleman. This has been another Man in Great Book Review. Thanks for watching.